Okay, well, welcome back, friends. In this video, I'd like to show you a technique that I've used many times when I'm putting a character or something important within the frame of a painting and try to keep it as painterly as possible as I can. And many times when we put a character or a person or even an animal or something within the scene, we have a tendency to tighten up, and the lines and the edges of the character that we're putting in there, it almost looks like a cut and paste. And this is a way to avoid that, so I'm hoping that you all will take the time to think about this when we're putting characters or individuals in our paintings. This is a scene of my son fly fishing on the Blue Ribbon Bighorn River in Montana. And I'd like to use the background, this scene here. This is also on the Bighorn River, actually on the same day. Beautiful, beautiful. It's in October. I scribbled this drawing here on some canvas. I will include a link below where you can actually download this drawing if you'd like to follow along, or put a fisherman on any one of your paintings. I'm starting off in acrylics, so I'm covering the canvas with water. In all my paintings, I only use 7 colors. That way I can mix the exact color I want, and I don't have to have so many colors on my palette. This grayish color here is a mixture of Payne's gray, alizarin crimson, white, and a little blue. For the vest, a little light red, a little bit of white, raw sienna, pretty much all warm colors. Then to that mixture for the waders, I just added some Payne's gray, a little more light red, and a little bit of lemon yellow, kind of warm it up a little more. Let the colors mix on the canvas. Don't try to stay in the lines, just go crazy. As you'll see later, I cover a lot of this up with oil paint and then bring it back. I lift it off with a brush and lens cleaner. I'll explain more about this later. If you look closely at his waders, there's even a little violet in there, so I'll put a little in there. Again, here I'm mixing colors. For the darker colors, is still Payne's gray and alizarin crimson together. A little violet on the top of the shoulders also. Now I use a little pure white and a rigger for putting this the color of the line in there. Now again, this is way too thick at this point, but you'll see later how I fix that. This is looking real wild and crazy right now, but trust me, this looks much better in a minute. Now the acrylic, it dries fast so that we can do the next part of this painting really quickly. Now we're going to switch to oil paint. Of course, the acrylic is dry. It only takes about 10-15 minutes. Just start out with a little paint thinner on the canvas. This will help it all dry a little quicker. Want to stay nice and loose, just cover it all up. Don't worry about it. That mixture is, again, in oil this time, but it is the same thing as Payne's gray, alizarin crimson mixed together. Just mix it on the canvas. You'll see why I do this in a little bit. I make all my greens with lemon yellow and Payne's gray. Makes a beautiful green. And lemon yellow and light red also make a nice fall orange color. If you'll look at the photograph, the distant color has a lot of violet in it, and that's why I covered the violet on the canvas first. On the painting and all the thin areas, then it has a little bit of violet in it, which does the same thing. The deeper, darker colors that you're seeing in the photograph are actually, we don't want to add too much like brown color in there. We want to add green and red together, make a deep, dark color in the foliage. The palette knife is really important here. We get much better coverage really quickly. The palette knife works great for making swift water. When water moves, it changes angles continually, so each angle reflects a different area. In some areas it'll be reflecting the sky. In other areas it'll be reflecting what's directly behind it. And in some areas you'll be able to see the bottom of the river. So in order to create that in a painting, just simply scoop up all the different colors you've used so far in your painting randomly and smear it on the canvas. Don't spend too much time trying to mix them all together. Just smear them quickly. This is another reason to have an undercolor, so the canvas isn't showing through in places you miss. If we try to cover the whole canvas and make sure it's all covered, then we mix the colors too much together. I have to apologize for the glare coming off the right side of the canvas. There'll be times here that you'll be able to see what colors these are. This technique keeps us real free, and we call it painterly. If I were to paint the background first entirely, let it dry, and then paint the fisherman over the top of it, it would look like I cut the fisherman out of one painting and pasted it onto the other. This technique keeps that from happening. Or if I were to just try to bring the background just up with a brush and paint around the fisherman, it would look the same way. It has an edge on it that just you can see it a mile away. Notice how this technique makes the water look swirly, like it's really moving around. If we tried to paint around the fisherman doing this, we'd lose that freeness and of movement. The narrowness of the palette knife is also really important here. The space in between the waders there, you'll see that if I tried to just fill in that little tiny space and leave waders, I would lose, again, the freedom of the strokes. It just wouldn't look like water then. So now comes the fun part. I use a hog hair brush, if you will. It's very coarse. Any coarse brush will do. It's clean. I just dip it in paint thinner, and I start removing the oil paint from the acrylic. Keep wiping the brush on a rag in between each stroke. It's quick, it's easy, and we don't have any hard edges. They're nice and soft. This creates what we call in painting lost and found edges. You'll see that the fly line, like over the face of the fisherman and across his front, looks too thick. But we're going to fix that. Just watch, you'll see. Another reason I didn't want that violet undercoating that I put on there in oil to dry is because when I scraped that fishing line in there, if I would have let it dry, it would be purple, and I wanted it white. Of course, the sunlight on the right side of the fisherman here really makes this pop. Notice the free brush strokes on the waders. That's another painterly technique. A little more detail on his face and on his stomach area. Then, of course, covers up the fat line. We'll bring it back with the palette knife. And here's the finished painting, framed. I make my own frames. Without the glare, you can see the deeper colors. A real free, painterly look. I'll upload a video soon on how I make these frames. They're fast, they're simple, and much less expensive. It really does help if you push that like button. Help other artists find this channel. Again, I'm Stephen Rathburn. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one.